analysis.
Yeah,
The
that's tough for
analysis
some people.
the
Hmm.
analysis of memory and imagination are what interferes. We were once given a envelope with a picture. They said, "Can you tell me about the person in this envelope?" And I sat down in our little room, it was electrically shielded room to keep out the electrical vibrations also. And he said, "Well, this man is very sick, the man in the envelope. And he's sitting in the dark and he's having a hard time walking. But I see him getting out of the room. He's going to walk out of the room, and I see him on an airplane traveling somewhere." That's what I get. So it's like a 10, 10 minutes in the dark. What do you see? I see this guy who's very sick and he's leaving. And it turned out that this was a photograph of Ambassador Richard Queen, who was one of the hostages from the Iranian kidnapping of the American embassy. And Queen developed multiple sclerosis, and the Iranians didn't want an American to die in prison.
Wow.
So after perhaps 18 months of his being very sick, they released him and he flew to Germany to get treatment and lived for quite a number of additional years. But our friendly psychic just didn't open the picture, didn't open the envelope, just held this big manila envelope in his hands and said, "There's a guy in here who's really sick, but he's gonna be released."
Amazing.
And it's that simple. There's no mumbo jumbo.
I like it.
We just sit down. It was really a laboratory. People were often disappointed at how little mumbo jumbo there was. We just come to the laboratory and I say, "Where is my friend hiding? What do you see?" There's one case I finally see. I don't drive, so I was always the inbound person. But once I was sent, uh, I was doing a business elsewhere, and on my way, I went to New Orleans, and we thought that I could find something interesting in New Orleans. So I got a picture book, a guidebook for New Orleans, and threw a die on the pavement, and the die came up number 6. So I went to the New Orleans Superdome, which I'd never seen before. This was before the floods. Nobody knew about the New Orleans Superdome. This was 1975. The psychic was another physicist at SRI, and he was interviewed and said, "What do you see? What's Russell doing?" And he said, "I see this damn UFO in the middle of the city. Do you think Russell's abducted?" And the interviewer said, "We don't know about that. Just make a drawing of what you see." And he drew this big circular building with lights all around it. And what he drew greatly resembled a UFO and also greatly resembles a superdome. So that was an example of just how easy it was. The viewer there was a physicist, and the interviewer was my friend Elizabeth Rauscher, who is a physics professor at Berkeley. So this is a very across the coffee table. Here we are now. It's 4 o'clock. Russell's gone somewhere. Uh, could you take a few minutes out to tell me what it looks like where Russell is? And he said, "Yeah, I can do that." And I see this damn UFO. And it was very easy, all videotaped. And we did that for 2 decades. And you can do it too.
And in one of your videos that I recently watched, and I also watched the TED Talk that was banned, you mentioned how buying your book and learning how to do it yourself takes that third party out of it, or second party, if you will, the psychic. So you don't have to go to a psychic who has their own perceptions, and some of that information has to be filtered through their perception. So when we open to our psychic abilities, it's much more accurate, right, when we're good at
That's
it.
right. A psychic may have her own ideas about what the answer is. And I got a nice Christmas present. On Christmas Day, my band TED Talk turned 3 million views on YouTube.
Wow, so much for being banned.
That is, I gave this
Congratulations.
nice talk. I gave this nice talk for TED, but TED decided it was too controversial. and somebody else picked it up. I didn't even know it was on YouTube. And somebody said, you're on YouTube, and you got 1 million people looked at it. So I began to then count customers. And this Christmas Day, I turned 3 million views on YouTube.
Merry Christmas to that.
That was very interesting.
Absolutely.
With 3 million views, what do you need TED for? That's
exactly.
That's great.
So we have just a few minutes left before the hour is up. And I just wanted to ask you one question, and then I would love for you to tell us more about your film that's coming up, your movie that's coming, and your book. You said in one of your videos that the mind is efficacious, and I actually made a little poster of that, quoting you. Could you talk a little bit about what that really means?
That was really an idea in response to people who were dualists, who said that this is a separation business. That is, that the mind is that there sort of is no mind. The mind is just an epiphenomena. There's a brain in your head, and then this mind that we made up out of the ability that the brain has. And everybody knows that the thinking goes on, but the brain can actually do stuff directly. One of the things that experiments that have been done are distant mental influence of physical systems. It's a long-winded way of saying that the thoughts of one person can affect the physiology of another person. So if you're sitting in the studio and we're measuring your heart rate and your skin response, and on a random schedule, I will close my eyes and sometimes send you sleepy thoughts and other times send you exciting thoughts. A person looking at your heart rate or skin resistance will notice that in certain episodes, your heart rate goes up and certain episodes it goes down. And this experiment has been widely repeated. And the thought shows that the thoughts of one person can affect the physiology of a distant person. And William Broad wrote a book, which I published, called Distant Mental Influence. Distant Mental Influence by William Broad. Very interesting book. Shows that the mind of one person can affect another person. But even more to the point, if we're playing a game where I'm looking at random pictures and I look at a picture and have asked you, can you draw the picture I'm looking at? That works quite well. That is, mental telepathy is a thing. Mental telepathy exists. Anybody with children, well, I had an experience today that I can tell you in 1 minute. I woke up worrying about, this is the kind of thing that makes psychics happy. I woke up worrying about, can you make scrambled eggs in the microwave? Now, I dare say you've never worried about that. Not something you're concerned about.
No, I've thought about it.
Oh, good for you. But
I don't have a microwave.
But anyway, I'd never discussed that with my wife. But 2 hours later, I was preparing for the show, and she said, I just found this article. You can make microwaves. You can make eggs in the microwave. We had not discussed that. We'd never discussed that particular thing. I was truly shocked. She brought me a picture of a little mixing bowl with an egg omelet right out of the microwave.
Amazing.
But that happened after you're married for many years.
Okay, that was my next question. Speaking to that, so is it a matter of having been together for so many years, or is it a matter of the heart, or is it a matter of love? Like, are you more connected? Are you more easy? Do you more easily receive information from people who you are close with and that you love?
Yeah, I'm quite good at getting images from her. But the most interesting thing that I can leave you with is to pay attention to your dreams, because the most efficacious, the most easy thing for you to do is have a dream tonight and remember it, and then notice that event takes place the next day. and you have to be able to separate dreams that are dreams brought to you by wish fulfillment or anxiety or the previous day's residue. Those are all noisy things.
Yes.
Wish fulfillment and anxiety. For example, if you dream about failing a math test that's coming up the next day and then you fail it because you didn't study, we wouldn't consider that precognition. Consider just what you expect.
Yes.
Oh, Russell.
But if you have a dream that's crystal clear and unusual, you might expect that one to be a psychic precognition.
Yes.
Question for you. You mentioned the fact that you could influence other people's thoughts. So how does this play into maybe as a means of warfare? Maybe someone sending thoughts to world leaders to manipulate them? Have you got any study on that?
Well, I've not done any study on that. I mean, people in the world scene, people are sending world leaders infinite different numbers and kinds of thoughts, that he should be well, that he should die. So I think that not a fruitful direction to go. I know that you think, I mean, tens of millions of people were all wishing that Hitler would die and it didn't happen.
Good
so I
point.
think that's probably not a fruitful way to do. Getting in touch with your dreams is something that actually works. So if you could start to write down your dreams, at least you're looking for unusual or bizarre dreams, surprising crystal dreams, and then look for them to happen the next day. That's being able to look into the future and describe things that have not yet happened turn out to be the easiest of all kinds of psychic abilities. And people can learn to do that.
As I worked as a nurse in the burn and the trauma ICU, Russ, I couldn't count on two hands, I think, the number of patients' families who were in an accident who said he had a dream that this was going to happen.
That's very often the case.
Yes.
People are attuned to that kind of thing. It reminds you that we're all connected and that distance doesn't matter.
Yes.
And above all, that this is not a new age idea. Modern physics has finally caught up with the Buddhists, and it was Patanjali who talked about the third eye and the pineal gland. And the Hindu teachings, you have a third eye for a chakra as a source of clairvoyance. And they're talking about clairvoyance and seeing into the distance 2,500 years ago. They knew all about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we're finally catching up. And tell us a little more about your the Third Eye Spies and also your books here. Let's just take the floor for a little bit and explain a little bit about this to us.
Well, Third Eye Spies, first of all, you can see this coming attraction, thirdeyespies.com. It's a very exciting 90-second coming attraction. I decided I had to make it. I've written 9 books now, so I decided I have to do something different. And it just happened that the 2 contract monitors from the CIA were retiring, and I was able to get my material declassified. So it seemed like just the right time to make a film showing people what we had done in the laboratory, where we had found a downed Russian bomber. We have Jimmy Carter on camera saying, yes, there was this bomber that crashed in Russia, and this Russian bomber crashed in Africa, and we couldn't find it with satellites because it was in the jungle. The jungle couldn't see it. The satellites couldn't see into the jungle. But he said, Jimmy Carter then said, and we found a psychic in California who was able to put a mark on a map, and the helicopter went in, and we found the downed airplanes right where she marked it. And nothing like that had ever happened in my presidency. So we opened with Jimmy Carter saying, yes, this actually happened.
Wow.
So you know that it's not just me making this up.
Yeah.
And the fact that we were in business for 20 years See, the CIA is not easily amused. So if we were just kidding around, they would not keep giving us $1 million or $2 million a year to do psychic games in the dark room.
Yeah.
But we were giving them information. Finding hostages was one of the things that we were very successful at. We found an American general who was kidnapped from Venice, taken to Padua, and the great psychic Joe McMoneagle, who's still alive, was able to say, yes, I see a hotel. I know, I recognize Padua. I've been there. I can see the hotel, and that's where he is. And they went and were able to get him. So we did a lot of very sharp, clear-cut things. The psychic ability is beyond the lost horizon now. You can learn to do this quite successfully.
I love that it's so much more scientific now, because it was shrouded with a lot of woo-woo and mysticism, and I love the clarity and the crispness that you bring to this today. Thank you so much, Russell. So grateful to spend time with you, and maybe you'll come back and see us again.
I'd like to do it. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Our pleasure, I'm sure. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, for joining us for our first show of 2019. There's all kinds of amazing things coming. Thank you, Russell, TARG, one more time, and we'll see you next time on Broadcast Team Alpha.
Thank you. Bye-bye.